5 years ago, my good friend finally got their driver's license. Right after that, they suggested we take a trip together, so we decided to drive all the way to Shika Prefecture for a little getaway. Since it was a road trip, we spent a lot of time resting inside the car, but somewhere along the way, we ran into something unsettling. This is how it happened. That day, we arrived in Nagahama City, up in northern Shiga. Nagahama hugs the western shore of Lake Biwa, with the hillsides climbing up on the east. The city is famous for one of Biwa's 8 scenic spots, Kai Kuboshima, or Bamboo Sound Island, steeped in eerie legends. When we pulled into Nagahama, it was already deep into the night. We were exhausted, so we parked in an empty lot just outside the city to rest a bit. Not a single car passed on the road, and the parking lot was completely deserted except for ours. My friend parked right in the middle of that pitch-manous black lot and immediately conked out. I stayed awake, sitting in the passenger seat, working quietly on my laptop. At first, everything seemed normal, but after a while, I don't know exactly when, I began to sense something off. Out of the corner of my eye, I started noticing something outside the window. I felt a strange unease but didn't look up directly. I just kept staring at the screen. About 20 minutes later, I finished what I was working on. When I was about to turn in for the night, I caught a glimpse again, a dark shape still lingering just outside the window. My heart started to race. Slowly, I shifted my gaze fully towards the window. Then I turned my head and froze. There was a figure with long hair standing right outside the passenger window. Only one I showed, the right one, fixed silently on me as if peering deep inside the car. Our eyes locked for a long, tense moment. Sweat began to drip down my forehead. Boosons crept all over my skin. My face twitched minutely with fear. We stared at each other for 5 terrifying seconds. I was too scared to move. Then I snapped back to reality and quickly shook my friend awake. He opened his eyes groggily, looked over at me, and jumped up in fright. We were both scared out of our wits, unsure if what we saw was human or something else. After a stunned pause, my friend's voice trembled as he shouted at the figure, "What the hell are you looking at? Get lost." The long minus-haired figure seemed to hear him. A chilling, weird laugh echoed from outside. The figure straightened up, then turned quickly and sprinted toward the trees at the edge of the lot. We watched as he laughed while running, and then disappeared into the shadows of the bushes. My friend muttered, "Grumpy. What kind of crazy person was that?" Scared the hell out of me. Shaken, we didn't want to stay in that parking lot any longer. We left and found another spot to rest. Even though the guy was probably just some strange person, the thought of him standing so close for those 20 minutes watching me silently so still made my skin crawl. That experience chilled me to the bone. This all happened on the way back from visiting a friend. Originally, we'd only planned a quick meet minus up and a bite to eat, but we ended up staying at his place much longer than expected, even though the next day was Sunday. I had an important meeting on Monday at work and needed to prepare, so I didn't plan to stay over. Driving home late at night, it takes about 2 hours to cover half the route from my friend's place, mainly winding mountain roads with few traffic lights. At night, there's hardly any other cars passing by. The whole stretch feels isolated, cold, and empty. After driving for a while, I started feeling sleepy, so I turned on the music and chewed some gum. But no matter what, the drowsiness wouldn't go away. That's when I thought I might as well find a place to take a short nap. The moment I had that thought, a convenience store appeared ahead, looking like it had just opened recently. The parking lot of that store was completely empty, no cars at all. There were no houses or other buildings around either. I parked my car with its rear facing the convenience store, then went inside to buy an onigiri and some coffee. Back in the car, I placed them on the passenger seat, thinking it'd rest a little first. That day's weather was cool, so I rolled down the windows a bit and leaned the seat back. I lay down and quickly drifted into a blurry half-minute sleep. I don't know how much time passed, but suddenly I felt myself in a strange half-minute awake, half-minute asleep state. What happened next, I'm not sure if it was a dream or reality. I heard footsteps outside, crunching over gravel. Squinting, I peeked through the gap in the window. At first, I was looking, but when I did, it shocked me. There was a black silhouette pressed against the window crack, staring right into the car at me. This figure had no identifiable features except for its glowing eyes. Aside from the shape and those large eyes, everything else about its face, clothes completely vanished into darkness, like it swallowed all the surrounding light. A shadowy humanoid, with huge eyes silently fixed on me. Looking into those eyes, I felt a wave of nausea and fear wash over me. It hurt before that. When you encounter something like this, it's best to pretend you don't see it. So I forced myself to stay calm, pretended not to notice, and slowly turned over my back, now facing the driver's side window. After I flipped over, I heard the shadow move from the driver's side window toward the back of the car. Then it appeared outside the rear passenger window, not moving. Suddenly, it quickly bent down and peered inside from that window. Our eyes met in that instant. I was terrified, almost shaking with fear. My breathing turned quick and shallow. My heart pounded fast. Cold sweat broke out all my body. My palms became sweaty. I hurriedly closed my eyes, cursing to myself inside, begging silently, "Please don't scare me." Even with my eyes shut, I could feel the shadow somehow sensing my thoughts. It seemed pleased by my reaction, smiling quietly. Then, suddenly, I heard hard knocks on the window. A low voice whispered right next to me, "Open the door." I screamed and jumped up, drenched in sweat. But when I opened my eyes, I realized I was lying facing the car roof. The way I jumped didn't match where I ended up. Panicked, I sat up and started the engine, fleeing the place as fast as I could, driving again along that desolate mountain road. I always felt that black shadow was chasing me. I kept glancing back, tense the entire way. Finally, I reached a busier road with more cars, and only then did my heart calm a little. At a traffic light, I reached for the coffee on the passenger seat to take a sip, but the coffee and onigiri were gone. Nothing remained on the seat. I couldn't figure out what happened to them. Back home, still shaken by what had just occurred, I tried to make sense of it all. Curious, I checked the route on my computer. There was no convenience store anywhere along that road. I thought maybe since the store looked new, it just wasn't on the map yet. Sometime later, while talking about the experience with a friend, he told me he often drives that same stretch. He said there's actually no convenience store there, but rather a deserted business with a large parking lot. Hearing that, I shuddered, recalling what happened that night. I was terrified because I didn't know where exactly I had taken that nap. Was it near that abandoned business? And what exactly was that black shadow I saw in the parking lot? This happened before, during another creepy experience with my friend Bitsuki. One night after work, around 11 p.m., I wasn't sleepy at all. So Mitsuki and I decided to drive up a nearby hill to look at the night view. We stopped at a convenience store at the hill's base and bought some snacks. Sitting in the car, we ate and chatted. After parking at the hill's summit, Mitsuki suddenly said, "Did you see that?" I asked what he meant. He said there seemed to be a little kid in the corner of the parking lot, pointing to a spot near the public restroom. I looked over in that direction. It was pretty far from the street, all dim and shadowy. Under the fading glow, the outline became clearer. Dim figure standing there. I thought to myself, spotting a small child in such low light. Mitsuki must have sharp eyes, but at this hour close to midnight, it felt strange for a kid to be out here alone. While I was mulling this over, Mitsuki got out of the car and ran toward the shadow. I hurried after him. When I reached them, Mitsuki was already standing in front of the boy. Talking, he asked, "What's wrong? Why are you here all alone? Where's your mom?" The boy didn't move but answered quietly, "Mom isn't here." Hearing that sent a chill down my spine. I felt it immediately. This kid was dangerous. We needed to get out of there fast. I grabbed Mitsuki, practically shoved him back into the car, and slammed the door shut. He asked, "What were you doing? Leaving a kid alone in a place like this is cruel." I told him to stay quiet and started the engine. We sped off, leaving that shadowed parking lot behind. We drove down the mountain fast, the tension still thick in the air. When we reached the foot of the hill, we pulled over at the same convenience store where our trip had begun. We got out, bought coffee, and talked about what had just happened. Mitsuki complained, "What was that back on the mountain? Why do you freak out like that?" I told him. My gut said something was off. That kid's voice, it wasn't a kid's voice. It was someone pretending, and it felt dangerous. He looked skeptical. "You're overthinking this." But even as I explained, I wasn't so sure myself. After chatting a while, we left and went home. Then, a few weeks later, Mitsuki sent me a message that scared me to death, along with a news link. The article said police had arrested 5 suspects accused of rape, murder, and robbery. The victim's body had been found dumped in the bushes by the parking lot on that very hill where we'd seen the boy. And one of the arrested was a grown man with dwarfism. Reading that, shock froze me. My instinct had been right. That kid wasn't a child at all. What scared me even more was what I hadn't told Mitsuki back. Then I'd noticed something else. Just behind the dwarf man, hidden in some bushes, I saw several shadows moving, crouched and watching us. Above the shaking branches, a woman's disembodied head floated in the air, slowly swaying side to side. And the dwarf man, his hands stayed behind his back the whole time. I didn't see what he was hiding. If I hadn't dragged Mitsuki away so quickly that night, who knows what could have happened. The thought still chills me. Sweat breaking out all over. Most people think ghosts and horror stories only belong to ancient, old places. But what in telling you happened where I work? I used to work at a company in Tokyo, servicing foreign investors, because we had clients worldwide. The office ran 24/7, in shifts. The late shift ended around 2. The office was downtown, but in the Tokyo suburbs quieter, less crowded. To help employees get home late at night, the company arranged taxis waiting at the parking lot. One night, after working past my shift, it was already close to 2:30. I headed outside to catch a cab. A cold wind blew, filling the empty street with a feeling of loneliness. No one else was around as I walked to the parking lot. But when I arrived, there wasn't a single taxi. I was the only one there, feeling both tired and deflated. All the cabs had left. As I wondered what to do next, I heard the click of high heels coming my way. I looked up and saw a young woman walking toward me dressed stylishly, all alone in the dark. She reached me and asked, "What time is it? Did I miss the..." She asked again, "What time is it? Did I miss the yourself?" I told her the time, then admitted I had indeed missed the last taxi. I asked if she was in the same situation, but instead of answering, she just smiled and reached out to shake my hand. The moment our hands touched, I felt an icy coldness seep through her skin. She said she was glad to meet me, then cheerfully turned and walked deeper into the parking lot. After she left, something felt off. Her hand being so cold was eerie enough, but wandering around a parking lot at this time, like that was unusual too. And the strange smile she gave, her calm, chilling demeanor, all of it set my nerves on edge. But I was tired. so I shrugged it off and headed back inside the building. Once back indoors, I asked the security supervisor on the first floor, she was in charge of transportation, if it was possible to call a taxi to take me home. She quickly made a call and said a car would be here in 15 minutes. She told me to wait in the lobby. While waiting, I chatted with her casually. I mentioned the woman had just met, the one who probably missed the last taxi, and walked toward the depths of the parking lot. I asked if they could help call a car for her, just in case. When she heard this, her face went blank for a moment before she quickly said, "In this time period, nobody else besides you has been seen." I frowned. Where had that woman disappeared to? Later, the taxi arrived. On the ride home, I told the driver about what had happened. The driver chuckled knowingly and said, "You ran into her too, huh? Actually, that lady you saw isn't really human. She's a ghost that often appears in the parking lot." She said many drivers from the company had encountered the ghost unknowingly around to her. The driver described the woman's appearance, and it matched exactly what he'd seen, but she reassured me, saying the woman I met looked normal, there was no reason to be afraid. Usually, drivers saw the terrifying side of the ghost. They encountered her standing right outside the driver's side window, so close it was unnerving. When you looked directly at her, her neck would suddenly bend all the way to the window like a cracked doll staring back at you, and the drivers said her eyes were pitch black, like hollow voids. The taxi driver then shared another story. Long ago, a woman had been attacked and strangled to death in the depths of that same parking lot. She fought desperately as her attacker choked her with all his strength, eventually breaking her neck before leaving her lifeless there. Though the driver wasn't certain, many suspected the ghost was that woman's restless soul. Hearing all this, my mind kept flashing back to that woman's eerie smile and freezing handshake. I hadn't taken her seriously at first, but now, I was genuinely scared. The whole ride back home, I felt uneasy and unsettled. Since then, I've never dared to go to a parking lot alone at night. Even though I'm afraid, I also feel sorry for that poor woman trapped by a cruel fate, lingering in that place after death. This happened when I was a kid. I remember back in elementary school, there was a day when it poured rain as I left school. My dad came to pick me up. On the way home, he stopped by a supermarket to grab a few things. He parked in the supermarket's lot. It was almost empty, few cars and hardly anyone around. Since it was raining hard, I didn't feel like getting out of the car. I decided to stay inside and wait. Dad left the engine running and got out, leaving me alone in the car. I locked the door and settled into the back seat, planning to catch a quick nap from the day's fatigue. Soon I drifted off into a hazy sleep. Half asleep, I heard a soft click sound. I closed my eyes, wondering if Dad was back already. That seemed too soon. Maybe I was just imagining things. So I ignored it and tried to keep sleeping. But just as I was about to fall fully asleep, the click sound came again. I remembered locking the door, so Dad must be back, but couldn't get inside. Growing slightly impatient, I opened my eyes and sat up, intending to open the driver's door for him. Just as I reached to open the driver's side door, I instinctively glanced out the window and nearly jumped out of my skin. Outside the driver's side window stood two strangers, a man and a woman, both staring at me with unreadable, serious faces. I had no idea who they were or what they wanted. As fear gripped me, my body froze. The man kept his gaze locked on me, and he was trying over and over to open the car door. The latch clicked and clattered relentlessly. I couldn't tell what he was planning to do, but in that moment, panic took over. I jumped into the driver's seat and honked the horn loudly, again and again, trying to draw attention from anyone nearby. The blaring sound echoed through the parking lot. Hearing the horn, the two strangers suddenly broke into a run, darting off toward a nearby shed. Later, When my father came out, I told him what had just happened. Upon hearing my story, he took me to the police station to report it. What stuck with me was the bulletin board there, plastered with countless missing person posters, so many faces, names I couldn't forget. At the station, the officer told us that there had been a recent surge in disappearances, and they warned us to stay vigilant. He also told my father not to leave children alone at home.